Hi, my name is Tom, and my Chinese name is Wang Jiuxi.
I'm Laila Mekazemi.
My name is Chloe Cho.
I'm Joshua Hangartner, and this is my grandpa. His English name's John, but his Korean name is Yi Jongjin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Charlotte Izadi, and this is my grandma, Lucy Kim, but her Korean name. Do you want to say it? Your name? I don't know, I'm gonna say it wrong.
My name?
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Lucy Kim.
No, like your Korean name.
Huh?
And your Korean name.
Korean name Myungsu Kim.
So I came to the United States for better education. My parents believe that the U.S. has a better education overall.
Along with the time goes by, I am moving toward Korea, Seoul, and where else? I don't remember all those. I moved around quite a bit.
He was about 30 when he moved to New York.
Second generation immigrant because my dad moved from Iran and then to Australia to America, and then I was born in Australia. Or I would be also a first generation from Australia to America, immigrating from there.
Me and my siblings were all second generation, and both my parents are from different countries. My 할머니, my grandma here, and then you came over from Korea with the rest of, with her husband and her 3 kids. And then my dad is from Iran, and he came over like in the 70s during the revolution.
I don't even know if I'm an immigrant. I was born in Newport Beach, California, and I was there for a few months, and then I moved to Korea, and that was because Korea is where most of my family are, and that's where all my family are from. And I was in Korea for I went to school there for around a decade, and then I went to boarding school in England around when I was in middle school, so age 11. But then while I was going to school in England, I would come back to Korea, and then I left that boarding school to go to Country Day, and so I live in San Diego now, and I go back to Korea for vacations and stuff.
So when I first came over here, it was obviously very difficult. We didn't know anyone, didn't have any connections. I went to a school that emphasized on Chinese, so I basically did not speak a single word of English when I first came here. So that was very, very, very difficult. When I did my placement test for reading, I got placed level E, which is kindergarten level. So I had to do some really boring stuff to catch up. And catching up was obviously difficult because you have to always, running the extra mile is always difficult. After 6 months, I could speak fluent English. So you can regularly converse with people, so that was good. So that was kind of the first step of getting used to life here. But then I would say being able to read and write as well as other kids took a couple more years. So probably around 6th or 7th grade, I was able to catch up, and then after that you can go beyond and surpass, but that's a different story.
He was the first one of his family to move, and about 2 years, a year or 2 years before he moved, he met my grandma. But so my grandpa moved first, and then he a year after, my grandma was able to come.
My job was teaching in the elementary school, then move up to middle school.
That's not true, out of it.
Then
You were a librarian.
yeah, librarian is it's a double job.
Okay. Alright. During the Korean War, a little bit after the Korean War, he worked for the military, not as a soldier, but you were military police, right?
Yeah,
How did you-
I was military police.
He's military police, and then his brother, we're pretty sure, gave him money to go to law school in Korea, but then my grandpa used that money to get English lessons because he wanted to come to the US, so he lied about what he spent it on, and then he passed his English exam so he could come study in the US.
In Iran, it's very there's a lot of religious pressure, and it wasn't really a safe place to be. So he managed to pretty much move away, and all his family ended up following as well. He moved to America because of work. So he moves with the company, and they went from Australia to America. So my mother, she was, her mother and father moved from England to Australia, but then she was born in Australia, and then eventually, like 30 years later, she moved to America.
You were born in what's now North Korea, and then tell them about everything that happened, how you ended up.
I born is 1947 September. Then we have the Korean War. That's a big war, you know, and we have to move here. There was a North Korea, there is a South Korea. Right now it's a half. We just moved to, you know. So.
And you were like a baby?
Yeah, 4 years old baby. My mother is a carry like that. That was so sad, the history, you know. My grandma, she's very, you know, they're smart, the lady. All the time she said, this is a big country, you know, because if I move over here and a lot of opportunity, you know, good opportunity, because there's my kid, myself too, we have going to be better than Korea. That is my future, the life, my kid or whole family. That's why she pushed me. Oh, I don't want to go. I don't want to come over here because we have a lot of language problem. You know, the first time I'm very nervous, but my grandma always pushing. You're gonna be happy. You're gonna be very successful. Don't worry. There is America, very large country. A lot of things is good. You cannot compare that. Try. Because I just come here very nervous, but little by little, everything okay. But until now, I'm very happy now. Yeah.
My parents were looking for schools for my older sister to kind of go to that was beyond Korea, because even though you get a Western education in Korea, it's so much more different getting it in an actual like Western, you know, like place. And so they were looking first at American boarding schools, but then because my dad, you know, went to an American boarding school, but that was for high school only, and essentially they didn't, because my sister would be going for middle school, and that's why they wanted to do female school only, because they felt a lot safer like that. But then when they were looking at female boarding schools in America, it wasn't as good as those in England.
Me and my husband, and also her mother is a younger, and Gina is a, you know, she's downstairs. That my second daughter, and I have a son. Then we have a business, art business, you know. Then my husband, he's an artist, yeah. Because we opened the store, art gallery. The art business is very, something is different, not the jewelry store, not the shoe store. So everybody, oh my God, this is a gallery, very interesting, they like it. Then they have a lot of questions. We have something as a language problem. We cannot explain, not that it's perfect, but very kindly, very people is very sweet. Sometimes we just talk to them. I'm not comfortable because maybe I wonder if they understand what I'm talking about, you know, but they say, oh, Mrs. Kim, don't worry about it. I understand what you're talking about. Oh, I'm sorry, because they say, oh, I know what you're talking about. So we open another store, Then later we had 2 different areas that we have that store. So make some money. I was so happy.
I mainly remember my parents telling me and my sister, because it was a big deal since we'd be leaving all of our family behind. But yeah, I feel like most of my life has been here now, and all my friends, and so my life's here now. It wasn't supposed to be long term. I think it was only supposed to be 2 or 3 years, but then the company ended up staying here for a while, and the headquarters are here now. So then we ended up staying for way longer. And like my mom's not too happy with that because all her family's back in Australia. But yeah.
In the 70s, there was like the Iranian Revolution over the whole like overthrowing the leader thing by the American. It's like a super complicated thing, but it was like when Iran kind of became how everyone knows Iran now. And my grandpa, my dad's dad, he wasn't like a Muslim. He was some sort of other group. I don't know the name. It was like a spiritual group or something like that. And my dad would know. They had to leave because they didn't like my grandpa or something, and they would like trying to find him. And so they, from what I know, is that they decided to leave, and and there's like a mass exodus of Persians, Iranians who left. And they found I don't know if the smuggler is the right word, but they found someone who like gets you out. And so they got out by that, and my dad told me they were like in a desert and they didn't have water, and it was like a really like traumatizing thing that happened. They got to Europe, they went to Spain, and they lived there like a year or two or something like that. And then they finally, and by the way, this was my dad, my dad's brother, my dad's sister, so my aunt, uncle, and then my grandparents on the other side. Their names are Homer and Hussein. And they came to America, and then they started a life here.
I definitely go back to China, or I used to go back to China a lot, but COVID kind of messed things up. But I used to go back once every year, but high school takes a lot of time, and like so like I have to do a lot of activities in the States. So like I would say maybe like in the future, maybe like once every 2 years or 3 years.
So we go back to Australia the most since most of my family's there. And we used to go back like once every 1 or 2 years, but then COVID happened, so we've been back once in the past like 6 years. Iran I've never been and my dad, like none of us have been, my dad hasn't been back for like 30 years. And then England I've gone 2 or 3 times, and that was to visit family, but also just because it's England and pretty cool. Yeah. So we haven't been back much. But
She's going for like 5 weeks? You're going to Korea?
Yeah.
This month?
Yeah, about 36 days I'm going to be.
Why are you going?
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Oh, because of my brother, he's very old. He's almost 90. So I didn't meet him. It's a long time because I was so busy. So I have to go. So because I want to meet them. People, something is, so very old. My sister also is, my older sister is going to be 83 and 84.
You have a lot of siblings.
We miss each other. So we have to, and I miss a lot of my friend, relative. I want to see them.
When I go back to Korea, when was it?
Do you go back often?
No, not very often. It's divided by 38 parallel. North is occupied of communist. South is part of the Western world. So I'm mostly with the Western world.
We went back this summer, but that was the first time he'd been in 30 years, and he's only been twice since he left.
he went to North Korea?
No, not to North Korea.
Oh.
But I don't know, why he said that. But he has a brother that was taken to North Korea during the war, because his town was like kind of just below the border. How did your dad pass away?
My dad?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been such a long time, so I don't recall. When did he die? I don't know.
His mom passed away though. I'm not sure when, but she passed away after the Korean War because he always says that his mom died of a broken heart because she was searching for his brother who was in North Korea. I don't know if that's true, but it's very like mythical kind of. His sister he was always really close with throughout his life. She passed away, I want to say like a decade ago. And then his older brother, but the younger brother, who I call Kunabaji because he's Harabaji, and that's like great uncle. And so his brother just passed away this last year. And that was part of the reason we did the trip. It was really cool. It was crazy. We got to meet a lot of relatives that I didn't even know existed. And we traveled to my grandpa's village, which was a really cool experience. And we went to his family burial site, which has been there for like 4 generations, I think. And we like kind of bowed to the ancestors because his family's Buddhist. He doesn't like practice, but his family was Buddhist when he was growing up. And so we went to their burial site and we like bowed to the ancestors and prayed, and that was a really cool experience.
So aside from like my parents and my brother and I, the rest of my family lives in China.
Oh yeah, there's definitely family there still. A lot of them left. I'm much closer with my Korean side of the family than the Iranian side because my dad isn't particularly like it's not like he can go back there. So it's a lot of them. I know we have a lot of relatives. Like a lot of them went to Canada. I think, but I do think a lot of them are still there. But I've never met any of them. Yeah, and I don't really plan on going there as of now.
So like for American culture, like I like the confidence part. Like a lot of American kids are like super confident. Like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. Like I like that, but like at the same time, like I can also relate to like Chinese culture where like you have to be humble and not to be like too over the top, if that makes sense. I like the American culture of like doing what you like or trying to do what you like, but at the same time, like I also go by a lot of like Chinese like traditional values of like working hard and like doing what's pragmatic and realistic.
I couldn't say too much about what Iran is like, but I think there's a lot more like family orientation in Iran culture than Australian culture, and I guess more like celebration, if that makes sense. But this is only based on my experience. I don't really know what it's like, but yeah. Australia and British, those two are probably very similar. Like whenever there's a British holiday, there's an Australian holiday, I think. And there's like a lot of food overlaps, but I guess just Australia architecture-wise is a lot more modern because it's very new. And yeah, I think it's more laid-back version of England, but they're still pretty similar based on like systems. Australia and America. Okay, I would say those two are probably the most similar because they're pretty new, and they were also originally, well, Australia is still connected to British culture, but yeah, they both have that same connection. I'd say the main difference is let's see, the main difference would probably be, I think Australians are like less progressive in a way.
The whole stereotype about Asian parents being like the tiger parents is like so not applicable to my mom. She's like really chill, and like she's always telling me like I'm proud of you no matter what and stuff like that. And I'm grateful for that because I know a lot of like the way things are like in like I think like especially like East Asia is like very different from that. And so yeah, but I think that's probably a difference, but not that doesn't apply to me. So yeah.
The Korean people, they sibling, they help each other, very close. Over here is different. I don't know, not everybody is the same, but American. But Korean over there, okay, if I'm older, I have to have help my next, my siblings. And there's a very big responsibility.
Like respect for your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They help parents too. When the parents are old, everything.
Yeah.
They have a very big responsibility. They happy. They do. Because the whole families, they know, oh, my grandfather, grandmother, they all, we have to help. So they see their kindness. Oh, my mother, my father is helping my grandparents. Mm-hmm. Then they, the grandchild, they see. Then they live together. They learn. Oh, I have to do. When I growing up, then
yeah.
I
like
have
Koreans
to do
usually don't put their parents in like elderly homes.
Yeah.
But a funny thing about the whole parent thing is like I remember when I was little, I was kind of in shock when I went to like some people's houses, and they would like completely like they were like 8 years old, and they would just like be so rude to their parents. And to be honest, my siblings and I like we've done that a lot. Like I feel like the Americanness of that has like happened. Like it's not like I've never gotten mad at my parents, but I just remember when I was little, like I had this one friend and she would like completely curse at her mom, like say like all these things, and I was in shock. I was like, I can't believe that like you would talk to your mom like that. And I think that's another thing, like especially more so like mom and like mom's relationship with like you is like very respectful. And I do feel like us like all your grandkids have like been a little affected by America in that sense, but still I think that's a big thing.
Okay, so the first difference that popped into mind was diet culture, which isn't unique to Korea, but I think the reason why it pervades our society, and the reason why it is taken to such a great extent is due to like how integrated it is with patriarchy and misogyny and kind of like I guess all those like cultural norms, because it is often seen as a way to, because you know like dieting is about like restricting your body in order to fit a certain ideal, and in Korea specifically it's really catered towards women, and it's kind of seen as a way to control a woman's looks in order for them to, it's for their own good, to secure a better marriage partner and to be more attractive and to kind of then attract all these different opportunities. And it's also kind of like pretty privilege is so big in Korea. Like that's actually the reason why not only is Korea known as like the best place to have plastic surgery in the world, but if you see the statistics of what ages people get plastic surgery, it's from middle school. And like they usually start with like double eyelid surgery to make their eyes bigger, but it's always seen like getting like working on your physical appearance is also kind of like a way to gain like attract a better career as well and better opportunities, because people like are so prejudiced against like I guess like people who do not fit the beauty standards, and that is why like a lot of Koreans think it's crucial to kind of like diet, get plastic surgery, and fit the ideal, not only to like for women, not only to secure a better marriage partner, but also to secure a better career.
People here do like to help others, I think, if they have an opportunity to, in like small ways. So like, like offering food or something like that. And there's also like a very progressive movement, which I really like about American culture. But I guess something not so great is there can be a lot of like bias against other countries, and like a lot of people, I guess it's kind of like this in every country, but just seeing other countries as not what they are and like seeing only the bad parts. I didn't really mention this before, but I did live in China for a bit. So one of those things is like, I guess people are always like, when I say like I really enjoyed living in China, it was very like, I loved the experience. A lot of people are like very confused because I think they have this image of what China's like, but it's a very like welcoming place.
American is very little the family members. The Korean, right now the Korean is also same like the American, but usually of the culture, the Korean cultures, when it's a grandfather, grandmother, we live together, then is the son, then they together. Sometimes they 3 generation, they live together,
like
whole
our house.
family. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think they're really different societies. Like when I was in Korea over the summer, like it kind of blew my mind, like how not diverse it was. Like it's just all Korean people there, and like there's no people of like other cultures really, or like races. Well, in America it's like a lot more diverse.
The US is a lot more diverse due to like the population, and just like it is one of, I think it's like, I'm pretty sure it's like the most diverse country in the world. If I had to rank like from least like heterogeneous to homogeneous, it'd be USA, England, South Korea. So
it could be difficult, or it has been difficult at times to try to like find a sense of belonging to like one certain group. But it's not too difficult because at least in San Diego there are a lot of like other Chinese people, so like they're there, so you can kind of still identify yourself as Chinese, but you just add the word American after it, so Chinese American.
My mom has two really close Korean friends, but they're also Korean American. So we hang out with their families, but nobody in that group speaks Korean. Everyone speaks just English. And like we go out to Korean food and stuff, but we don't really have a lot of Korean friends. And he had Korean friends in New York, but they were mostly my grandma's friends. So when she passed away, he didn't really have a lot of Korean friends left. He immigrated before the 1964 Immigration Act, which kind of like legalized Asian people to come to America. So when they got here, there were like very few Asians. And so like it was kind of just like not helpful to be Asian like in life. And they were scared that my mom would have an accent if she learned how to speak Korean, and that would create problems for her when she tried to go to school and get a job. And they also like, people were kind of like racist to them. So that also just was like another reason to not teach her Korean, because they were worried that would just like make her childhood not as good.
What's that?
Do you want me to learn Korean?
Learn Korean? Speaking Korean?
Yeah.
I'm a native Korean, so I speak very well.
But do you think I should learn how to speak Korean?
No, not we never forced you guys to speak Korean because it's not needed, because English is more or less in the world language, so you can get along without speaking Korean.
I do. I wish, because I always joke about it to my mom. I'm like it's like you guys are both like bilingual and I don't know the languages. But I also think part of it is like the reason that like my name is Charlotte and not like, what's a Korean name? Or like, because I know my dad, my parents are talking about like, I don't know if it's like a common thing, but like you talk about like the names your parents were gonna name you. And my dad was like, my mom was like, your dad wanted to name you like Sarah, which is like Sarah, but like in a Persian way. And then he also wanted, I think another name he wanted me to be named like Jasmine or something like that. I think they're common names in Iran. And my mom was like, no, let's just give them, like all my siblings and I, we have like really like, I think they're all like British names or something, like names that are really common in the United States. And so I feel like that's a part of it too, that like they wanted us speak English. But I feel like now, like I just, personally, like I really regret not knowing the language, because then I go to like restaurants and stuff and then I hear them all speaking, like my grandma and my mom when we go there, or my dad when we go to that food, and I just wish I could speak it too, and I hope to learn it in the future. I mean, there's always time.
I don't think I have a lot of knowledge about Korean culture, because like not even my mom really has a lot of knowledge about Korean culture, because even though both her parents came from Korea, she was born in Queens, New York. And she grew up kind of very American, and they never taught her how to speak Korean. And I think the language barrier creates like a big problem, because you can't communicate with a lot of relatives and other people in the Korean community. And then, so yeah, if like even my mom doesn't have that much Korean culture, I definitely don't, because I'm mixed and my dad's like white American. So there wasn't a lot really to pass down by the time it got to me. But we still do like certain things, like we celebrate Lunar New Year and we do Korean traditions on the Lunar New Year, and my mom speaks like a little bit of Korean, so she can do that, and we eat Korean food, so that's kind of the biggest thing is the food.
We do sometimes celebrate Nowruz, so like there's different celebrations like jumping over fire, or sometimes mainly like food celebration.
Like spicy stuff. I think like it's kind of funny because I forgot what was happening, but we were like eating food and like it was something was like kind of spicy, but like it wasn't that spicy, and it was like, oh my god, it's so spicy, and I was like, yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying now, but it was just funny.
Table manners, or like how people kind of like, I don't want to say eat, okay, how people kind of interact with each other, like especially like when they go out to eat together. Like my dad teaches me a lot of that because he used to do business in China, so that was a must. But I do actively look for stuff, and that I can read Chinese really well, so I go on Baidu and I just search up whatever, and I read like regular like Chinese social media and stuff. So
As of recently, I kind of realized that I am not as up to date with kind of Korean society as I thought I was. And I think like that's kind of created like a disconnect where I just kind of sometimes can't really fathom, or I can't really like take in, like I don't really process or absorb the fact that like some things that are said or that happens in Korea still happen, or that is happening, and like the kind of, especially regarding like the cultural like norms, and like that situation, like I can't really process it.
Once it's not really about my identity, but sometimes they ask questions like about Australia, and then I have no idea, and then I'm like, I just told them I'm Australian and I can't answer this simple question, so then like sometimes I'm like, oh, what do I say?
I think I'm pretty connected. I think I definitely am more connected to Korean culture than like Iranian culture, and it's not because like I like one more than the other. It's just because like I live with my Korean side of the family, and like my my aunt also lives with us. But I also think it's difficult because it's not like I'm just Korean. Like I'm also Persian, so like I go to Korean food, and I was with my mom, and the lady was like, she's like, oh, is this your daughter? Because I guess I don't look like a lot like my mom, and then she was like, oh, I thought she was like Hispanic or like Mexican or something, because I'm like tan and Koreans like are pale, and like there's this whole thing. And then like sometimes another thing is like Persians have like a very distinct accent, and sometimes like I volunteer in Balboa Park, and like I don't know why, but a lot of Persians come in, and like I volunteer this like cottage thing, and like sometimes if I hear their accent, I'm like, oh, are you Persian? And I like, because I want to connect, but they just like I don't really look like Persian to them, and I don't really look Korean to like super Korean to Korean people, and so sometimes I think it's hard because like there's two sides, but I really do feel a connection. I feel like now that I'm like older and like I'm more like conscious of like ethnicity and stuff. Like when I was little, like obviously like, oh, like I look like this, someone looks like that, but like I feel like now I especially have like a deep appreciation for it, because like I know like your story and like my dad's story and like everyone, and I really want that connection. And another thing that goes back to being like, I feel like language is such a big connection. I don't have that, so it's hard. But like culturally, I feel like Korean stuff, like you're pretty Korean, Grandma. And the way you like when she speaks to my mom, they always sound like they're angry at each other, but they're not actually angry. That's just how you talk. Yeah, so.
I like being half Korean. I think it's cool because I get to like experience both cultures. Although I do wish I like knew more about my Korean culture and was able to speak Korean, because like I've obviously grown up in America, so like my like American side, which is like my white side, because that part of my family has been in America for a long time, like that's been really present in my life just because I've grown up here, but not really my Korean side.
if I can choose one more time, I would probably still like go on the path that I have been on. It's just the timing might be a bit different. So I would say at kind of like a tricky spot in time, in that like if I came a bit later, my English won't be as good and catching up will be a lot more difficult. But if I came any earlier, my Chinese will be not as great and I probably will lose it or like not be as good as I am today. So like, but like it like your understanding of English ultimately has a huge impact on your performance in the American school system. So like if I came earlier, like yeah, maybe like for like literature related classes or writing, I might be like a bit better, or like for the SAT, like my vocab will be better, so I'll score better. But my Chinese wouldn't be as good. And also for me personally, my like I don't know, also like I learned a lot of like mathematics as a child in China. So if I came earlier, my math base wouldn't be as strong because after I came over, my mom made me like stay on the Chinese system for like, I would say until like 6th or 7th grade. That was when like stuff got really hard and like I couldn't like stay on both sides. So like I had to go with like the American system. So.
When I was in the British curriculum, you call math like maths plural, so it's like maths, and so, but then in here, like the States, you call it math because it's not like, because in the UK, it's like mathematics as an entire branch of study, and so I'd be learning like because obviously it's the same math, it's just that I learned different parts of it at a different time than my like peers here.
There's the whole like Asian thing where like there's a kid who's like half Asian, half white, but then like I've never met another kid who was like half like, not even like like Middle Eastern and half like, you know, East Asian or something like that. And so I think it's kind of cool that it's unique, but at the same time, like, it's like, I never met anyone who's like the same thing as me. But then I also like being a part of the multicultural thing, because then, like, for example, at school, like there's like Chloe's like Korean club, and then there's a Persian club, and I've actually only been to the Korean club, but I signed up for the Persian club this year, so I'm gonna go to both. But yeah, I really like it. It just, sometimes it feels like weird because you're kind of in the middle.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I wasn't really aware of the fact that Korean was kind of like a racial category. Like, I thought of it like more of, it is an ethnicity, but I thought of it like the same as kind of the ethnicities on my white side of the family. So I thought it was like, you know, I was like French and Finnish, and then just Korean was like part of that. And then I think as I got older, and kids would kind of like point the fact out that I was Asian, or I kind of became aware of the fact that Korean meant more than like those other ethnic groups meant to my identity as a person and what people saw when they saw me.
People are always confused. Like, they're like, so like, where are you really from? And I'm like, what does that mean? Because it's like when you ask someone like, where are you really from? You're essentially asking them like, where is your home? But it's like home, there's like physical home and there's conceptual home. And it's like, that took me a while to differentiate, by the way. But like, I definitely think that conceptually home exists for me in all three places that I've kind of like lived in so far. But it also, like, I think I most identify home as with my family in Korea. So I guess I would say like I'm from Korea, but then I don't think, like, when I say that, I don't think that really encapsulates like the different like exposures and experiences I've had and how I've developed as a person through that. So I think like, I don't know, like that's kind of the question I get asked the most.
But I definitely felt like when I was younger, a lot of people just ask like kind of ignorant questions. And like, I know like when I was in elementary school, it was like, if you were like Asian, you were like Chinese. Like, everyone just asked you like, are you Chinese? And I remember like a kid asked me if I was Chinese, and that was kind of when I was like, oh, like, am I like Asian in like that sense? Like, do I, if like, I always, whenever I saw Asian kids, I was like, oh, that's not like what I look like, kind of. But then when people would tell me I kind of looked like that, I was like, oh, maybe that's like how it is. But I do think, yeah, like when kids are younger, they kind of ask ignorant questions, and sometimes it's like maliciously and sometimes it's not. But no matter what, it kind of leaves you feeling othered in a way.
I think I always say that I'm Australian. My only problem sometimes is I'm like, am I Australian enough, or am I like Persian enough? And then sometimes I'm like, oh, what do I say? So like, for example, a lot of people, if they ask like, oh, where are you from? I would just say Australia. Or if they say like, oh, what race are you? I say I'm just white. Cause like, I don't know. I just like, it feels weird explaining stuff.
The Asian kids at my school in Europe like came from Asia, and they were like culturally very Asian, which was very different from how I was, because I was raised in America. And so even though people like assumed I was going to be friends with those kids, I wasn't really friends with those kids, and I felt like I always had to like prove that I was like kind of like the white kids so that I could like hang out with them more. I definitely feel like here in America, because it's like, at least like here in Southern California, it's pretty diverse. And because like I'm very American, like I've grown up very American, and like my mom was raised very American, it's not very hard to like assimilate here. But like I definitely felt like in the summer when I was in Korea, like people would kind of like look at me funny, and like they weren't really sure about like what I was, and people felt like a little odd just about how I looked. But everyone was also super nice to me in Korea, so I don't want to act like I experienced like racism or something.
I think I do talk about it because like I like to bring it up. I mean, like it's like a big part of me, and like especially with like my Korean friends, like I really only have like 2 right now, but I like talking about it with them. But then I think the person I identify with the most right now is like I don't know if anyone in the documentary knows who this is, Josh, because I have a friend and he's also like half and half, and we always joke about like Korean stuff.
I do have an American accent when I'm there, because technically it's like you notice what you don't have or like what you're not used to. So sometimes they're like, oh, like where are you from? And then I'll say San Diego. So like I switch it up based on where I am, which is probably not the greatest thing, but I just do it because it's like simpler.
I think the only negative thing is like when you feel like the members of the group like don't associate you with them because you don't look like stereotypically like them. Like Koreans have a very specific look and Persians have a very specific look, and like I don't really look like completely like either of them. And so I feel like, especially when I was like younger and like kids don't know what to say and they just like say things like that, and I was like, I mean, I don't really care, but
I definitely feel that when I'm on the streets, people notice that I'm westernized. Like, they kind of automatically, for example, assume that I can't speak Korean when I'm like, I can speak Korean fluently, but it's fine. And so I kind of like surprise them, you know, but like, oh, actually, and like they speak to me in English, and then I respond to them in Korean, and they get like all like flabbergasted, and I just kind of like pretend like I don't notice, you know. But it's like
you have the opportunity to take advantage of the best and the apex of both cultures, so that's good. So like in my case, I can take advantage of like the American like type of like confidence, like value and confidence, and I can take the Chinese value of being hardworking and have a blend of both that can make me like really hardworking and like confident, but like humble at the same time, if that makes sense. But if there are any cons, there will be times where you don't feel like affiliated with anyone, and that can be problematic. But luckily at Country Day, like we have a lot of kids like me, like international students like you, so that really isn't a huge problem for me.
2 main things is it makes me more inspired and excited to learn about other cultures and explore and travel. And then number 2, it's that I'm excited because it like made me a lot more open-minded and receptive to differences.
I am very grateful for it because it does give me like a lot of opportunities that many other people haven't been able to experience, and just meeting a bunch of new people. So I think it's definitely been like a very positive in my life that I'm just very grateful happened. Yeah, I guess it's also like helped me want to continue to travel. So I am pretty connected to America, but I'm not like against leaving it in the future or trying new things. So I think it's been a pretty good positive in my life.
I think I'd much prefer to hang out with people who have had has a multicultural experience, because then I can learn from them, because they probably would have had experiences that I haven't had in different cultures, and then they would have different perspectives about kind of being multicultural, and so I would love to like listen and learn from that. But then I don't mind hanging out with people who like are more like homogenous, you know, like I think I can also learn from them too, but I would prefer to hang out or learn from people because I feel like there's just more to learn about and from.
Ultimately, you'll find out at some point that like not all of your values match, and I think I have been ingrained with Chinese like cultural values enough that like I like for some parts I won't change. Not saying for like everything, but like for certain parts like I won't change my values at this point. So like that can be difficult because most Americans tend to believe like some values in some ways, and the Chinese culture might believe in like the exact opposite. So it can be difficult at times because nobody else can understand why you're doing what you're doing.
It's harder to like talk about it when like a lot of your friends aren't a part of that group. But then I also think it's kind of fun because then you get to like share things with them. Like I taught one of my friends how to say like this like Persian saying, which is like yeah, should I say it? it's like Jigeri and that means like I want to eat your liver, and it's really weird. But I was joking about it with like Ava, who's like in our grade 2, and like because she taught it to Claire or whatever, and I was like talking about how that just means like it's really weird, the translation, but it just means I love you so much. And so like then I joked with my friends and I was like, I just want to eat you, but it just means I love you. And so I think little things like that are really cool, but I don't think like in casual conversation I ever like, oh, like, you know, all these deep issues, 'cause I think it's just a weird thing to say.
I kind of feel like I'm a sponge. Like I kind of like I'm kind of like porous, and I just absorb like these different influences that I've had, and then I kind of make it my own, you know. So I kind of think of myself as a hybrid, but in like a good way, like not in a way that like I feel ostracized and I feel like I don't fit in anywhere. Like I think that my kind of different experiences are one of my like has developed my strongest skill points, you know. And so I think I identify myself more with like the kind of qualities that I've earned through my experiences rather than like the experiences itself.
Looking back, I'm like, oh, that's such a great thing. Like I had so many experiences, but definitely in the moment, and even now, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to change schools again, because it's like it's scary in the moment, but then once I like actually have friends and like a life, and then I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad, but like it was in the moment. So, but I'm definitely happy that I had that many experiences. But yeah,
if you put the tag of being an immigrant on a teenager, it's much more positive than it is on adults, because it gets into politics. I don't need to go into that, but like in certain cases there is a negative connotation that goes with being an immigrant in the adult world, but being like there isn't really anything that's negative if you say like you're like an immigrant student, like especially for a teenager. So like we definitely kind of have like an edge in that sense.
we live in a like, or like especially La Jolla where I live is it's a very like rich neighborhood, I guess. So I think there's a lot of it's not very diverse around here, which is not a great thing. But I think in like schools, I think they're trying to be more diverse, I guess. But yeah, I definitely think economics in this area like plays a role in the decrease of diversity, I guess, which is pretty bad. But
This sounds very cliche. Like our whole generation is like very different about things, and people are. I mean, also we're in California, so like it's like we're very privileged to like be around like such people with open minds. But I do think like as we get older, because when we're little, like we don't really think about it, and like. But then another thing is like when you're little, you just like don't know when to shut up. Like you just say things, and so I think when people get older, like maybe it's not them maturing, maybe it's them knowing they shouldn't say it. But yeah, I do think it gets like a little more like people. I don't even know. Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
It's a vase, and it's in the shape of a teapot, which is a traditional Chinese dress. So what it represents is kind of like the traditional Chinese values. So my family usually goes by like very, very traditional Chinese values. So like it holds some meaning to us. The other object is a jewelry box. The entire jewelry box is basically red, and red in Chinese is I'll say that it represents like happiness and like good fortune. And it's accompanied by the character Fu inside, which means which basically means fortune and like happiness. The third object is a paper cut. So it's a paper cut of the very well-known character of Mu Guiying, which is a Chinese heroine, I want to say, in history. Paper cut in general is a like very traditional Chinese thing. Like during like the Chinese New Year, a lot of people will like cut it or buy it from somewhere and like hang it up around their house. It's very difficult to make because you have to design it first, and a lot of them you have to fold it into, you cut a circle out first and you fold it into 4, and then you cut it out to create a pattern. But for the paper cut, like the one in my house, you can't really do that because like it's of a character and it's not symmetrical, so it takes a lot more like technique and finesse to complete.
These are like 2 sets of ducks. One of them's like more ceramic, and this is like one of them's wooden. I don't really know what they are. I just like my grandparents' house in New York, which is still there. We haven't sold it yet, but it's just kind of sitting there. My grandparents' house in New York that I grew up going to, it's like super. There's like tons of Korean things. Like they have these whole chests full of like Korean ornaments and like glasses. And they have all these little things like this too around the house. And so when my grandma passed away, we were staying at that house because she was in the hospital for a bit. And then when we came back to San Diego and he moved in with us, we just took a couple things from the house that we thought would be nice to keep because afterwards some of the relatives came to the house and they took things they wanted, so we took some stuff first. And I just kind of grabbed these on the way out because they were easy to carry and I liked them. And my grandma always said they came in pairs.
I have no idea how this one happened to be in my possession.
Yeah, I bet my grandma bought it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much a Persian rug, and it's honestly it's been around since before I was born, so I actually don't know much about it, but like that's why it's so special to me because every time we move, it always comes with us and it's always underneath the dining table, and we have like videos of when we were babies like crawling across that rug, so it's pretty sentimental that way. But I have no idea where they got it. I'm guessing they just bought it from like a Persian rug store. Or maybe it has like more connection. I should probably find out. So we got her when I was about 6 years old, and we got her in China. We got 2 cats actually when we were younger, and we brought them over to America when we moved. And they pretty much, they've been with us since. They've moved with us, and yeah.
So this is a fountain pen, and this is not an heirloom, and it's like my granddad got it for me. I forgot if it was a birthday gift, or if it was just it was definitely a present though. It's my granddad on my dad's side. And it's like a Mont Blanc fountain pen, so it's like fancy and it's not Korean by any means. But I thought that this perfectly encapsulated like my family's specifically my paternal side of the family. My granddad studied abroad so he went to boarding school in Japan when he was in high school, and then my granddad's dad also studied abroad in Japan. Basically, he told me that when he went abroad to Japan, his dad, so my great-granddad, gave him this I forgot if it was the exact pen or this kind of like from this brand, and it was kind of like a good luck for studying abroad because this is literally for studying, so it's like a utility object. This brand is a German manufacturer, and I thought that was really interesting because my great-granddad studied German economics, and so that's it's like a full circle moment. It is a Western object, like it's not from Asia, and so it's like because I got this when I was studying in England, and so I'd be using it, and it kind of like fits how I've been learning in a Westernized curriculum, specifically European curriculum. So I thought it was for me a timeless object because it encapsulates the past and then also, at the time, the present when I was using it, and so it was kind of symbolic of like how studying abroad kind of runs in our family.
Tell who everyone is.
Oh, this is me. This is my, this is her mother, the younger. This is my second daughter. She just looks like a boy, no hair. But right now it's a lot of hair. Yeah.
And you guys are in Korea? Where, Daegu?
Yeah, this is Korea, Daegu.
Mm-hmm. Where they grew up, right?
Yeah, Daegu. We live over there just a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. And that one is you?
Yeah, this is my age was about 36 or 35, something like that. Yeah, very young, eh?
Yeah, many times in old history as it is, when we think of the very hard time we came through, we cry. But still, Korea, talking about Korea, is still divided, north and south. South is in the west side, north is communist side. So that kind of things, I don't know when they're gonna solve this internationally. You know.
Do you remember anything about the war?
Do you remember the war?
War, yeah, a little bit. Yeah. In the war, 1950 war, it's a little started then it finished, so I don't remember well. Yeah, but still, war was there, and we were either divided by north and south. It's still there. So when they're gonna finish, I don't know.
Okay.
So this, I will see this interview in newspaper somewhere tomorrow.